Russell is one of Hollywood's most talented and handsome leading men.
He sure is, and he's appeared in more than 90 films over the past 5 decades.
In 2025, Kurt Russell sleeps on winery couches and flies vintage planes at dawn. He turned down countless movie roles to focus on something else entirely. His wine business, his car collection, his secret political meetings. But his real money comes from places Hollywood doesn't want you to know about. His net worth just hit $110 million, but the way he built it will shock you. Kurt Russell was born on March 17, 1951, in Springfield, Massachusetts, right in the middle of one of the worst blizzards the area had seen in decades. Temperatures dropped to 15 degrees, snow piled up to 28 inches. The roads were shut down. His parents, actor Bing Russell and dancer Louise Julia Russell, were trapped in Mercy Hospital for 3 more days after his birth. That delay changed everything. During that unexpected stay, Bing received a telegram offering him a role in California. Within 6 weeks, the family packed up and left the snow behind for Hollywood. If not for that storm, their lives could have turned out completely different, and Kurt Russell might never have become a star. But long before Kurt stepped onto a film set, his family was all about baseball. Bing Russell wasn't just an actor. He had signed with the New York Yankees farm system in 1948, earning $400 a month, which would be about $4,800 today. He played hard until a collision at home plate in 1949 shattered his shoulder and ended his career. Acting came next, but baseball never left his heart. In 1973, Bing bought the Portland Mavericks for $67,000. It was an independent team filled with misfits, old pros, college dropouts, even actors. Their motto? Baseball for the fun of it. Young Kurt spent his summers with the team, soaking up the grit and freedom of the game. By high school, he was hitting .563 and getting scholarship offers from colleges. The Hollywood action hero had baseball in his blood. At just 9 years old, Kurt auditioned for a film called Safe at Home, starring his idols Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. He had every stat memorized: .298 average, 536 home runs, 1956 Triple Crown. It was 95 that day in the San Fernando Valley. He gave it everything he had. But the casting directors thought he looked too confident, too knowledgeable. They wanted a wide-eyed kid, not someone who seemed like he belonged on the field with Mickey. He lost the role to Brian Russell, who had no connection to Kurt and gave a flat performance. The film bombed, but there was someone else in that room. A Disney scout named Bill Walsh watched Kurt's audition and saw something special. That rejection planted the seed for Kurt's Disney future. His first movie role came just 3 years later. It happened at the World's Fair in 1963. His job? Kick Elvis Presley in the shin, literally. He was 11 years old, 4'8", and barely 78 pounds. Elvis was a full-grown icon. They filmed the scene on a freezing October day in Seattle, just 34 beat dirty. Elvis insisted on 17 takes. That meant 17 solid kicks. And on one of those takes, Kurt kicked a little too hard. Elvis laughed. The director kept it in. That one scene, which paid him $250 for the day, around $2,400 today, left a mark. Elvis liked him, so did the crew. And someone else took notice: Walt Disney himself. In 1963, Disney was personally reviewing footage and saw Kurt's brief appearance. He noticed a moment where Kurt ad-libbed a line. It wasn't in the script, but it worked. Disney was so impressed, he asked his team to find the kid who kicked Elvis. They did. On Valentine's Day, February 14, 1964, Kurt signed a 10-year deal with Disney worth $1.75 million, nearly $17.5 million in today's money. It was one of the longest and most valuable youth contracts in Disney history. By 15, Kurt had already starred in Follow Me, Boys, and was on track to become Disney's top star of the 1970s. Walt Disney himself called him a 15-year-old boy for whom I predict a great acting future. That prediction came in Walt's last filmed appearance before his death in December 1966. The studio poured resources into Kurt's career, casting him in hits like The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, Now You See Him, Now You Don't, and The Strongest Man in the World. The movies made money, audiences loved him, and Disney's investment paid off. In 1971, The Barefoot Executive hit theaters. It was released on Kurt's 20th birthday. He played a mailroom worker who discovers that a chimpanzee can predict TV ratings. The idea sounded insane, but it worked. The film became a surprise success. It featured actors like Harry Morgan, Joe Flynn, and even a young John Ritter. They shot parts of it in Long Beach and the rest on Disney's studio lot. The National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences backed it. Disney aired it on The Wonderful World of Disney for years. That goofy little comedy proved Kurt could carry a film. Long before they became Hollywood's power couple, Kurt met Goldie Horn on a movie set. It was 1966. She was 21. He was just 16. They were filming the one and only genuine original family band. Goldie thought he was adorable, but too young. They didn't speak much. They both swore off dating fellow actors. But 17 years later, everything changed. It was 1983, and they reunited during auditions for Swing Shift. Kurt showed up hungover. His first words to her? "Man, you've got a great figure." Most actresses would have stormed out, but Goldie laughed. They went on a date, then another. They never married, but they've been together over 40 years. They had a son, Wyatt Russell, in 1986. Kurt wasn't just an actor. In 1970, he narrated a Disney TV special called Disneyland Showtime. It aired just 5 days after his 19th birthday. The show introduced the Haunted Mansion ride and featured the Osmond brothers. Donny Osmond gets lost. Kurt guides him and the audience through the park. They sang songs, rode rides, and brought Disney magic into living rooms across America. The show earned a 9.110 on IMDb and made Kurt the face of Disney's family image. In 1981, Kurt's time with Disney came full circle. He voiced Copper the Hound Dog in The Fox and the Hound. The film was about friendship and heartbreak. Kurt gave Copper a soft, conflicted voice, especially in the scene where Copper tells Todd they can't be friends anymore. It was a long way from kicking Elvis. This would be his last major Disney project. The film marked the end of the old Disney animation era and the beginning of a new one. It was the final work of Disney's 9 old men and the first project for future legends like Tim Burton and John Lasseter. The movie took over 6 months longer than planned because of internal drama, but Kurt's performance never wavered. Kurt Russell was once just the kid who kicked Elvis Presley in the shin in It Happened at the World's Fair. He was 12 years old back then, and no one could have guessed that he'd one day become Elvis on screen. But in 1979, that's exactly what happened. Just a year and a half after Elvis died, Russell took the lead in John Carpenter's TV movie Elvis. It aired on February 11th and crushed the ratings. It beat Gone with the Wind and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in the same time slot. That night, Elvis was the 6th most-watched program in America. Russell didn't just play Elvis, he became him. The performance earned him an Emmy nomination and changed how Hollywood saw him. No more Disney kid. Now, he was a serious actor. And the movie wasn't even a big-budget project, just $2.11 to $4 million. But it made waves. In Australia, a shorter theatrical version pulled in $350,000 in just 3 weeks. What started as a tribute ended up transforming Russell's entire career. That transformation led to something wild. An eye patch-wearing outlaw named Snake Plissken. Escape from New York hit theaters on July 10, 1981. It only cost $6 million to make, but brought in $25.2 million in the US and over $50 million globally. This wasn't some cheerful blockbuster. It was gritty, dark, and cynical. Yet audiences loved it. And Snake? He became a legend. Kurt Russell's gruff voice, the one-liners, the anti-hero swagger, it all clicked. Critics took notice. Newsweek praised Carpenter for casting Russell in a role that fit him perfectly. 15 years later, Snake came back in Escape from L.A., but by then, the character had already sealed Russell's place in the Action Hero Hall of Fame. This was the moment he broke free from every bit of his Disney past. He wasn't just a guy in kids' movies anymore. He was the star of a dark, grown-up universe. Snake inspired copycats and became a symbol of rebellion in cinema. And Russell showed that you didn't need a massive budget to make a hit. You just needed the right story, the right tone, and the right man in the lead. But not every project landed the same way. In 1982, Carpenter and Russell teamed up again for The Thing. It had a $15 million budget, and $1.5 million went straight into the creature effects by Rob Bottin. On paper, it should have been a hit. In reality, it was a disaster. It opened just 2 weeks after E.T., and while Spielberg's Alien was hugging kids, The Thing was tearing people apart. The audience wasn't ready. It made just $19.6 million worldwide, barely over its budget. Critics hated it. They called it gory, cold, and cruel. One review even said it had a terrible absence of love. Carpenter got fired from his next gig. The whole thing nearly ended his career. But time changed everything. As years passed, people started to get it. The paranoia, the isolation, the tension. It all made sense later, especially in a darker world. Now, The Thing is a horror masterpiece, but in 1982, it was just a misunderstood mess that left scars on everyone involved. Then came Big Trouble in Little China. It had magic, martial arts, monsters, and jokes. But the studio didn't know what to do with it. The budget was somewhere between $19 and $25 million. It made just $11.1 million in North America. Another box office flop. But this time, the movie worked. Test audiences loved it. The early reactions were through the roof. Yet the studio dropped the ball. Fox executives didn't understand the mix of action and comedy. Their marketing focused only on Russell's character, Jack Burton, and completely missed the tone of the film. Even worse, they released it in the summer of 1986, right up against Aliens. What chance did it have? Russell and Carpenter later said outright, "The studio killed it, but home video saved it. People discovered it, loved it, and never let it go." Today, Big Trouble in Little China is a cult classic. It shows how one bad marketing campaign can kill a movie's shot in theaters, but not its place in pop culture. By the early 90s, Kurt Russell was more than just a movie star. He was someone you could count on. That's why the Tombstone story is so shocking. In 1993, the production fell apart. The original director, Kevin Jarre, got fired 1 month in. George P. Cosmatos stepped in, but rumors say it was Russell who actually ran the show. According to insiders, Kurt gave Cosmatos detailed shot lists every night. He was making all the calls, while someone else took the credit. Val Kilmer, who played Doc Holliday, didn't hold back. He said Russell was solely responsible for the film and basically sacrificed his own role to save it. Russell never fully confirmed it, but he told Rolling Stone, "If I had not been around, Tombstone wouldn't have either." That says a lot. It made $56 million in the US and $73.2 million worldwide, on a $25 million budget. It beat Kevin Costner's Wyatt Earp in every way. If the rumors are true, Tombstone might be the biggest hit ever directed by someone who didn't even get credit. Meanwhile, there was a love story. They met in 1978 while filming the TV movie Elvis. Kurt Russell played Elvis, and Susan Hubley played Priscilla Presley. Their on-screen spark turned into something very real, very fast. Within a year, they were engaged. On March 17, 1979, they got married, but kept it a secret. To the press, they were just fast friends. Kurt even joked about it, saying asking if they were in love was like asking if two plumbers fell for each other over a toilet. It was a way to deflect attention, but behind closed doors, they were already husband and wife. Susan Hubley was no newcomer. She had already built a solid acting career with films like Lolly Madonna XX in 1973. She would later appear in Escape from New York and Vice Squad. But the speed of their romance, from meeting to marriage in just over a year, was a whirlwind even by Hollywood standards. What truly set them apart, though, was how completely different they were. Susan was a self-described total liberal. She believed in astrology and Eastern philosophy. Kurt, on the other hand, was a proud right-winger who didn't care about spiritual matters at all. She once said they had so little in common, they couldn't even argue. And she meant it. They lived in separate cities during the marriage. She stayed in Laurel Canyon, Los Angeles, and he lived in Aspen, Colorado. That wasn't common in the early 80s, but they knew it wasn't a perfect match. Still, they pressed on, even having a child together. Then came February 1983. That's when everything changed. Kurt and Susan announced their separation. Just days later, Kurt saw Goldie Horn again, someone he had met years earlier but hadn't spoken to in a long time. The timing couldn't have been more surreal. The same month he ended his marriage, he started a new relationship that would go on for decades. According to Kurt, he was hungover when he saw Goldie again and blurted out, "Man, you got a great figure." That was his pickup line. Somehow, it worked. Their first date? They broke into Goldie's house, which was under renovation, because she didn't have the keys. They were caught by the police mid-romance and had to run off to a hotel. And Kurt was still legally married to Susan at the time, even though they were separated. It was chaotic, messy, pure Hollywood. Valentine's Day, 1983 became their official beginning. That very day, they had dinner, went swing dancing, and again ended up in that same renovation house. This time, it marked the start of a love story that would last more than 40 years. And their timing was so tight that the press couldn't help but speculate. Had Kurt and Goldie's romance started before the marriage ended? By the end of that same year, Kurt and Goldie merged their families. He brought his son, Boston, born in 1980 with Susan. Goldie had 2 kids from her previous marriage, Oliver, born in 1976, and Kate, born in 1979. Kurt eventually adopted both Oliver and Kate, despite their biological father, Bill Hudson, still being alive. The family grew fast, and so did their fortune. By the mid-2000s, their blended family was worth over $50 million. Then came Wyatt. Born on July 10, 1986, he was Kurt and Goldie's only biological child together. He arrived 3 years after their first date and instantly became the baby of the family. But he also carried both names, Wyatt Horn Russell, which never would have happened if they'd gotten married and Goldie had changed her last name. His birth wasn't just about family, it was legacy. Today, Wyatt is following in their footsteps, even starring with his dad in Apple TV's Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. For all the drama, the most surprising part of their story is this: they never got married. Not after 5 years. Not after 10. Not even after 40. They both went through tough divorces, Kurt's with Season and Goldie's with 2 ex-husbands. So they made a decision. No wedding, no paperwork, just commitment. That decision may have saved them $10 to $20 million in potential divorce settlements. And around 1993, they even asked their 4 kids if they should get married. All 4 said no. They liked the family just the way it was. Even more curious was Goldie's math behind their happiness. She once said they spend exactly 68% of their time together. Not 70%, not 50-50, exactly 68. That means out of 168 hours in a week, they spend about 114 together and 54 apart. It's oddly precise, but it worked. That space gave Kurt time for vintage car restoration and Goldie time for her wellness and meditation projects. It kept things fresh. And in an industry where 52% of celebrity marriages end in divorce, they've become the exception. Kurt Russell didn't just build a $110 million fortune. He engineered it across movies, real estate, aviation, wine, and classic cars. His acting career alone brought in about $70 million, starting with Disney roles in the 1970s and leading all the way to the Marvel hit Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2. That role alone earned him $8 million. And even after stepping back from the spotlight, he's still pulling in $4 million a year, thanks mostly to royalties from Netflix, Disney Plus, and other platforms. Just in residuals alone, he gets $250,000 to $400,000 annually. Quiet, consistent money. But the real power move was real estate. In 2004, Kurt and Goldie bought a 6,389-square-foot home in Pacific Palisades for $12 million. By 2025, it was worth $6.9 million. That's a 67% return. The house wasn't just large, it was luxurious. A spa, pool, dry sauna, Pilates studio, even a meditation pavilion for Goldie. They listed it for $7.25 million in 2018, showing they weren't just owners, they were strategic sellers. Zoom out, and their full property empire is worth over $21.5 million. They've got an $8.5 million mountain estate in Aspen, a $3.8 million loft in Manhattan, a $2.3 million home in Vancouver. That last one wasn't just for comfort, it was to support their son Wyatt's hockey career. Between 2002 and 2005, they even bought a 1921-built mansion in Vancouver's First Shaughnessy for training convenience. That mansion was once called the most handsome home in the city. 10 fireplaces. Built for just $40,000 back in the day. Then there's the wine. Russell didn't slap his name on a label and walk away. He actually helped make the wine. He launched Goji Wines with a real vineyard team, not some corporate factory. He even slept on their couch to learn how it all worked. Since its start in the late 2000s, the brand has made $2 to $3 million in revenue. His 2012 Chardonnay, named Goldie, wasn't just a vanity bottle. It got standing ovations at culinary events and helped raise over $10,000 for charity. His car collection isn't massive, but it's powerful. The standout is a 1934 Ford 3-window coupe called Hot Licks, fully custom. A supercharged 350 Ci V8 engine, Recaro seats, power everything. It's worth up to $300,000. And when it hit the auction block, everything was documented. Photos, titles, paperwork. That's how you treat collectibles when you think like an investor. But Russell's passion wasn't limited to things with engines. He's a licensed pilot. For nearly 3 decades, he's flown planes like the Rockwell Commander, Cessna 414, and even a Starduster biplane. Aviation runs in his blood. His grandfather was a test pilot for Howard Hughes. That love of flying wasn't just for thrill, it was for purpose. He's been involved with Wings of Hope, a charity that provides medical flights to remote areas in 10 countries. In 2019 alone, it helped nearly 73,000 people. Russell isn't just a celebrity figurehead, he's an honorary council member. Twice nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, The organization also holds a top rating on Charity Navigator. And it fits. Kurt's always believed in action over talk. That belief shaped his politics, too. In a 2015 interview, he shocked Hollywood by calling himself not just libertarian, but hardcore libertarian. He dug into writings by America's founding fathers and even attended Cato Institute events to deepen his understanding. For him, it's about small government, free markets, and personal freedom. But here's the twist. Even though he holds strong views, he refuses to use his celebrity to preach them. In 2020, he said, "We are court jesters. We shouldn't tell people how to vote." Still, when it comes to guns, he doesn't hold back. In a 2015 interview, he dismissed gun control as fantasy, saying, "If you think gun control is going to change a terrorist's point of view, you're out of your mind." He owns firearms, hunts game, and openly backs the Second Amendment. Not just in private, but in national interviews, even during the Obama era when gun control was a heated topic. All of this, flying planes, crafting wine, collecting rare cars, investing in property, challenging political norms, makes Russell one of the most unconventional figures in Hollywood. In 2009, he was awarded the Aviation Mentor Award at the Living Legends of Aviation ceremony. The room had 1,000 guests. Other winners that night included Buzz Aldrin and Tom Cruise. In his speech, Russell called out President Obama, telling him, "You need to be an aviator." Wyatt Russell wasn't always meant to be an actor. Born on July 10, 1986, he first chased a very different dream: professional hockey. But after several injuries ended his career on the ice, he decided to give acting a real shot. He could have easily relied on his famous last name, being the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Horn. But he chose to work hard for his own place in Hollywood. And it paid off. His big moment came in 2021 when he played John Walker in The Falcon and The Winter Soldier on Disney+. The character wasn't your average superhero. He wanted to become Captain America, but slowly unraveled into something darker. Wyatt played it perfectly, conflicted, intense, and human. The performance won him praise around the world and secured his place in the Marvel Universe. He returned in Thunderbolts in 2025, and that film alone made $372 million globally. Not bad for someone who started out in skates, not spandex, but Wyatt's never pretended he did it all alone. In a 2025 interview, he admitted, "People talk about Nepo babies and stuff, and you're like, is it 1,000 times easier? Fuck yeah. Are you kidding me? It's 1,000,000 times easier." Still, most critics agree. He's not just a product of his family. He has real talent. That's why directors like Steven Spielberg are now calling. Wyatt is currently working on a top-secret sci-fi project and will also appear in Avengers: Doomsday. His future in film looks unstoppable. Of course, Hollywood legacy runs deep in the Russell-Horn family. Kurt Russell didn't just raise Wyatt, he stepped into the role of father for Kate Hudson, too. Kate was only 4 when Kurt came into her life, after her biological father, Bill Hudson, faded away following his 1982 divorce from Goldie. But Kurt didn't just play a part, he became the dad she needed. Kate made that clear in 2004 when she named her son Ryder Russell Robinson. That middle name wasn't a coincidence, it was a tribute. She's talked openly about what Kurt meant to her growing up. On The Howard Stern Show, she said, "When you have a father like Kurt, who's sort of been there for the hard stuff, the trust that I got from him in terms of his dependability was just priceless." But Kate also made her own choices. At 16, Kurt offered her a role in his movie Escape from L.A. She said no, not because she didn't want to act, but because she didn't want anyone saying she only got the role because of him. I thought, do I want to be known as Kurt's daughter who landed this role? No, she said. That choice showed just how much she wanted to make it on her own. Years later, they finally worked together in Deepwater Horizon in 2020. For Kate, it wasn't just another job. It brought back the spark, the reason she fell in love with acting in the first place. And in 2023, on Father's Day, she shared a message that summed it all up. She called him Pa and wrote, "He has taught me that we can all exist with immense love through our differences." But Kurt Russell's life isn't just about movies or parenting. At 74, he's still chasing the skies. Aviation isn't a hobby for him, it's a passion. He's been flying since 1988 and holds FAA licenses for single and multi-engine aircraft, along with instrument ratings. He learned from the best. His grandfather was an aerobatic pilot with over 45,000 hours in the air. He also worked as a test pilot for Howard Hughes and a senior check captain for TWA. Kurt has flown everything from a Rockwell Commander to a Cessna Crusader, and even co-owned a sleek Piaggio Avanti 180. But his personal favorite is his Starduster biplane. He flies often and takes it seriously. Even when he doesn't need to, he flies under instrument rules to keep his skills sharp. "Flying has taught me more about who I really am than anything I've ever done," he once said. "I take very calculated risks. I've done too many stunts on too many movies and television shows to be a daredevil." In 2021, he became a paying member of One Flight International, a private aviation service known for its speed and flexibility. He liked that they offered access to over 75 different aircraft with just a 10-hour call-out window. That kind of control appealed to someone who's always valued preparation. His contributions to aviation haven't gone unnoticed. He received the Aviation Mentor Award at the Living Legends of Aviation ceremony and serves on the board of Wings of Hope, a humanitarian flight organization.